All right, so our intro to decimals kind of relates back to fractions a little bit. So we're going to convert fractions to decimals, decimals to fractions, and then decimals to percents and vice versa. Okay, so we have a little bit to talk about. So the first thing you do when you're converting fractions to decimals, you have to use long division. Okay. The one on top is the dividend. That's the one that goes inside the fraction bar. The one underneath is the divisor. So again, the one on top goes inside. The 2 in the bottom goes on the outside. And then we do long division. Can 2 go into 1 at all? No, right? So if that happens, we have to add a point and a 0. If we add a point underneath, we add 1 up top. And we said that 2 goes into 1 0 times. But now we have to look at this whole thing. How many times does 2 go into 10? 2 goes into 10 5 times. So then we're going to subtract 10, and then we get 0. So we want to keep on dividing until we get a remainder of 0. So then 1/2 as a decimal is 0.5. Okay, so let's do that again. So this goes inside, this goes outside. So we have 3 inside, 4 outside. And 4 go into 3. No, so we have to add a point 0. And if we add a point down there, we add a point down there. And we said it goes 0 times. But how many times does 4 go into 30? 4 goes into 30 7 times, and that's 28. And we'll have a 2 left over. We have to put in another 0, bring that down. How many times does 4 go into 20? Goes in 5 times, and we have a remainder of 0. So 3/4 as a decimal is 0.75. Okay. When we have things like example 2, we ignore the whole number part. We just write that. So it equals a -2, and then we put a decimal point. Now we want to look at this 3/8 and do 3 divided by 8 and figure that out. So figure out what that is as a decimal, okay? So pause and try that right now. So this one we had to add a couple zeros, so you should get 0.375. So now we add that 0.375 to the end of our whole number that we had. Okay, so that's the only difference. The other thing you could do is make it improper and then divide that way. So either way, but I find that to be faster. If we have just a whole number, it's just going to be 0.0 at the end. So if you have a whole number, it's just 0.0. So now we have to convert decimals to fractions. So remember the decimal places. So first is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, so on and so 10,000ths, whatever, hundredths. So whatever decimal place it's to, that's what you put it over, if that makes sense. So like this 36, this 3 is in the tenths place. This 6 is in the hundredths place. So since it's in the hundredths place, it's going to be over 100. So it's going to be 36 over 100. And then we have to simplify that. Hint, divide them both by 4. And you're going to get 9 over 25. So because this was in the hundredths place, that's why we put it over base of 100. And then we simplify if possible. Okay. So looking at example 4, I want you to try that on your own. Figure out what decimal place it's in and then put it over that and simplify. So hopefully you realize this in the tenths place. So you should have 4 over 10, but you could simplify that to -2 2/5. Okay. This one is 10 100 thousandths place. So we put it over 1,000. And then we can simplify. Okay, so simplify if you can. I want you to try to figure that out. Probably divide by 2. Okay, so hopefully you got 117 over 500. Okay, just do long division. Try example 6. Try example 6. Okay, so just like before, we just look at the decimal places and it's to the 10th, so I make it 1 over 10. And the whole number just comes in front. Now it's a mixed number instead of a regular fraction. So that's it. What do you notice about example 7 that's a little different? So hopefully you notice that it's got this repeating bar over it, right? It's got that repeating bar over top of it. So what's important about the repeating bar is that it changes the base. So over here we had base 10, 100, 1,000, so on and so forth. But the repeating bar makes it a base of 9, 99, 999, or continue on, okay? So if it's a repeating decimal, we have a different base, okay? So this is in the tens place, so we really make it over 9. So it's really -3 over 9, which simplifies to -1/3. Okay, so if it's got a repeating bar, it's a different base, and make sure you remember that. All right, so if you have a decimal and you want to turn it into a percent, you move it 2 places to the right. So this way. So we take this decimal place here, move it 2 places once, twice to the right. So now it's 36%. Vice versa, we want to take a percent to a decimal. We move it 2 places to the left. So there's an implied decimal back here. And we move it once, twice to the left. So now it's 0.25. Okay, because it'll make more sense in a couple seconds, okay? So we're going decimal to percent. So we want to move it to the right. Move it to the right 2 spots. Move it once, twice. So our percent is 96.7%. Okay. I'm going to skip example 9 because I want you to do that in a sec. We have a percent. We want to move it to the left 2 spots. So 1, 2. This is 0.35. I want you to try example 9 and 11 on your own right now. All right, so 9 and 11 were kind of tricky, okay? So remember you had to move 2 places to the right, but there was only one number. So then we put a 0. So instead of 8%, it's 80%. With example 7, again, there was only one number, so you put a 0. So it's not 0.7, it's 0.07. Okay, so just be careful there. Now, I want you to order these rational numbers from least to greatest. From least to greatest, okay? My suggestion is to convert everything to a decimal. Okay, so I want you to convert all the fractions and the percents to a decimal and then put them in order from least to greatest. Okay, so try that right now. So once you convert them to decimals, you have to order them, but remember, you have to order them in original form. So what I mean by that is this first one should be this. So I'm not going to put 0.5. Okay, I'm going to put -1/2. And then I'm going to put -0.3. And then I'm going to put 0.22. And then 45%, not 0.45. And then 3/5. Okay, so put it in original form using whatever, not the converted decimals. Okay, you have questions, ask in class.